Good morning, guys. Happy Monday. I hope everyone is amazing. I hope you've all had a top weekend as well. Welcome back to this daily market outlook. As you can probably tell by my voice is a bit gone. Of course, England played Norway this weekend, and as you can tell, I was probably shouting and singing a bit too much. But yeah, it was worse yesterday. Thank God it's a little bit better today. So before we get into the charts, I just want to make sure you guys know that the content on this YouTube channel, inside my Discord, or with anything that I do is for educational and informational purposes only. I am not a financial advisor, and nothing shared in my videos or in general should be considered financial investment or trading advice. Trading and investing involves risk, and you should always conduct your own research before making any financial decisions. Also, understand that any past performances discussed does not guarantee future results. You are responsible, as always, for your own financial decisions. So, before we get into anything today, we have, of course, no folder news for Monday, July the 13th. And then going into the rest of the week, we have a heavy news week. So, as always, guys, please make sure that you check in the news calendar before you jump into any chart analysis. You want to make sure that you're going into the Forex Factory or whatever it is of your choice and checking what folder, red folder news, orange folder news, what is going on in the economic side of a currency. So yeah, nothing today. But let's see what's going on in regards to the markets. Of course, we could talk a little bit about Friday's analysis as well. But just as we're obviously going ahead, you'll obviously hear me talk about some of the stuff that happens or happened, should I say, in regards to Friday. Now, looking at the daily chart, just quickly, you can see that we are still, in this consolidation phase at this moment in time. We have been trapped between that supply and demand that we have talked about all last week. You can see that the fact that we reached this demand area, slowed down, and then I talked about, I think was it Wednesday? Yeah, Wednesday, this candle. So I think Tuesday and Monday we talked about this daily supply candle. And the reason we talked about this daily supply candle is when we have some sort of movement down, we have to make sure that that is caused by something. Now, the way that I trade, of course, is supply and demand. And the one thing that we all identified on these daily market outlooks was the fact that we had this daily supply area here. Now, this daily supply area obviously caused market to start slowing away. And then once we've seen that we had this big, engulfing candle, for me personally, that told me that, of course, market could potentially carry on shorting from here. And that's exactly what happened. Market obviously tapped into that daily supply and then slowly started to move away. Now, unofficially, we haven't broke, either of these highs or lows. Of course, the one area that we have been identifying is the fact that I would love to see this daily this daily demand area met, and then make a decision from there. So what I've been talking about is if we could possibly get, markets coming to this and then eventually maybe having that go and create that new daily higher high, that would be perfect. But we're not in that scenario as of right now. So we just got to play what we see. Now, jumping into the 4 hour, you can see that we have just reached this 4 hour supply area. Now, of course, internally, we had, supply areas. And obviously, we just quickly, before I move on to talk about this, you can see that from Friday, we did identify this supply area. We did tap into this supply and we were slowly moving away. We took out the high. But again, we didn't obviously have the full impact of going breaking a new lower low. But of course, if you guys will look at this, you can see that this is internal structure. This is more 1 hour structure, 1 hour supply areas. And we obviously know that we had this 4 hour supply area up here that market could reach into, which it has done today. So as you can see, a bit more clearer now. You can see that markets came into that 4 hour supply and we're slowly starting to move away. Now, it's going to be interesting to see what happens from pretty much this area of demand. This will tell us a lot. And what I mean by that is if market obviously carries on from here, then we can obviously identify that we could carry on bullish because we reacted to that daily demand and that 4 hour demand. Or if market obviously carries on shorting, then we could then identify that we could potentially go and see if we can come into these lower daily demand area and then the 4 hour demand area inside of there. So pretty simple. Hopefully you guys can see that. Now going into Euro USD, I am currently in Euro USD longs. Obviously it's a shame, but I was obviously on the charts when the opportunity presented itself. And of course, it was just before coming onto here. But we can discuss that anyway. So looking at your USD from a daily, you can see we're in this daily supply. Is this my most favorable daily supply? No, it's not. I want to see market come into this area of supply up here and fill in the rest of this imbalance. Pretty simple. I've been saying that all last week. So I'm hoping that now we can go and attack all of these highs that we've created, use them as liquidity, and just carry on up into that daily supply area. And then we can make a decision of, is the internal going to stick potentially, or are we going to see market then go and create that new daily lower low? So let's see what happens going into this week. Hopefully we get some movement into the markets. Now, again, you can see pretty much consolidated. We reacted out this 4 hour supply area last week. Now we've officially come into this 4 hour demand area. We've filled in that imbalance and taken out any liquidity. So all confirmations were met. Now, of course, ideally, I would like to just see this carry on, like I just said, higher. But of course, in order for that to happen, we would need to see this. For me, anyway, we would need to see this high bulk here. Because of course, at this moment in time, it's not the prettiest, but we are in probably a 4 hour and 1 hour supply. For me, I don't like it, so I'm not going to mark it out. But again, if we get some sort of reaction from here, it's going to be interesting to see also how we react from this 4 hour demand area. If we're going to carry on bullish, we could potentially see market dip, fill in the imbalance. We've obviously got 5 minutes left on this 4 hour candle. And then we could have this area go and attack the highs that we just talked about. So let's see what happens going into the rest of today. But as you can see, beautiful move so far. Took out the low, filled in that imbalance, taps into that 4 hour demand area, which hasn't been touched just yet. Okay, going into GBP USD, you can see that we've been in this daily supply area for quite some time. Of course, market has, just been consolidating and slowing down a hell of a lot, but we haven't officially broke anything either side of this daily supply. This daily lower high hasn't been broke, and the internal has still been bullish. So if you look at the internal has still been bullish. So of course, we have to understand that that is what we've got to play. Now, for me personally, I would like to see, or would have liked to see this 4 hour demand area met, still would. We've created these lows, we've took this liquidity, and potentially we could be creating this to then go and tap into this demand, fill in that imbalance, tap into this demand, and then go and target, the higher highs. That's if, of course, it aligns with the dollar carrying on bearish from here. Now, if the dollar carries on bullish from here, then what could GBP USD be doing? Well, GBP USD could just simply be reacting from where it's currently at. We've filled in this imbalance here. Sorry, one sec. And we're slowing down inside of this 4 hour area. Now, it's probably most likely a 1 hour supply. Let me just have a quick look. Yeah, there we go. So you can see it more from a 1 hour perspective. And that's where market is currently at. So again, it's going to be interesting to see if the dollar carries on bullish, then this is where GU could carry on bearish. So if market can slow down in here, there could be an opportunity for us to obviously look for them entries for GBP, Great British Pound, US dollar shorts as well, depending on what's going on with the dollar. So yeah, let's see what happens. Going into NZUSD. NZUSD, you can see, let's look at the daily just quickly. We seem like we're going bullish to reach this daily supply area, which we haven't tapped into just yet. So it looks like we are going to get them bulls into that. If I look at the 4 hour, you can see that this is the 4 hour demand area, which we talked about last week. So as you can see, we reached into that 4 hour demand and then market slowed down and we started now getting that this bullishness away. So we got 2 minutes left in this candle. If the dollar's going to carry on bearish, then this could be the opportunity to look for a 4 hour long setup here. You can see that markets obviously took this low, tapped into demand, and we got this bullish reaction. So again, if the dollar does align with going bearish, then we could have, or carrying on bearish, we could have this scenario for NZUSD. Definitely keep an eye out on that today, guys, if you guys obviously can. NZUSD, I'm not going to talk about. I don't like the look of it, as I said last week. USD CAD, yeah, let's talk about this. Beautiful trade from this 1 hour supply area that I give out on Friday. As you can see, we discussed this. Go back on Friday, go and watch the market analysis. Everything that I do is obviously already documented, so you guys can see. Tapped into the supply and then obviously went. So beautiful, beautiful trade. Going into the daily, what can we see? Well, we're inside that daily supply area, which is, where's it gone? Which is here. We took out the highs of this, which didn't tap into this supply, and market has been slowing down a hell of a lot in this area of supply. Now we're starting to see some sort of market move away. Now looking at a daily, we have, this daily demand area, and we also have a lot of imbalance to fill as well. So ideally, I would love to see USD CAD just carry on short. I 100% would, and then make a decision from here. Now going into the 4, you can see that everything's pretty clean. Let's look at this right now. The one thing I can obviously notice is the fact that after we moved away from the supply markets come back, we've taken out this high here. Let's mark this out. So we've had a liquidity sweep of this high, and then we've got on this move away. So if the dollar's going to carry on bearish, I expect USD CAD to carry on. And this is the area which I would expect from a 4 hour USD CAD to carry on. So ideally, I would like to see now market retrace, get a slow consolidation and then get that shift away from here. That's ideally what I'm going to be looking out for. Now, of course, if we go to lower time frames, like the 1 hour, it could be a little bit different because of this 1 hour demand. But if you look at this structure, you guys can probably agree that for me personally is obviously bearish. So I'm going to prioritize, shorts if it aligns, of course, with the dollar. So hopefully that is pretty clear. USD CHF, let's see what's going on. Let's remove this. We had a slight reaction from that 1 hour supply, but let's have a look at what is going on. Not the cleanest. We obviously had this move away here, and the market's obviously come back. Let's just look at the daily for 1 second. So yeah, as you can see, we're still inside that daily supply area, and we obviously had this reaction from this daily demand. So at this moment in time, we are currently just consolidated inside of the supply and the demand. If I jump down to the 4, what can we see? Well, you can see obviously we've gone into this sideways movement. If you look at it overall, because we still have this structure that we have to understand and have to play. We have this as our 4 hour lower high and this our 4 hour lower low. We've obviously had obviously this retracement, slight reaction, and now it's depending on if USD CHF is going to carry on bullish or not. So for me personally, the way that I would approach this is, do we have better setups with the major pairs? Do we have better setups with the major pairs than USD CHF? I personally think yes. Okay, so if that's the case, from a 4 hour, am I going to participate in this? Well, no, because I think EU, GU, NU, all them other pairs that we discussed previous are much better setup. So me, I'll walk away from USD CHF. Hopefully that is understandable. This is pretty clean. I'm going to show you guys quickly. Again, daily time frame with USD Japanese yen. You guys will know we discussed about this daily supply area. We call this daily demand area. Of course, we have now tapped into this daily demand on Friday, and we've had a slow reaction away. Now, again, if the dollar's going to carry on bearish, I'm going to prioritize USD Japanese yen carrying on bearish as well, and vice versa. If the dollar goes bullish, I'm going to carry on with USD Japanese yen bullish. Now, first thing I can see is if we do carry on bearish and this supply is going to stick, we've had a retracement from this demand into this daily supply, this new daily supply area. And that's where market is slowly starting to slow down. Now, if we go into the 4, what can we see? We can see we had a beautiful reaction this 4-hour supply. We went from internal bullish to internal bearish. Now, you guys who trade with me should be able to see this beautiful area that we've got here. And that's where market has slowed down. Market has reached this area of supply, filled in that imbalance, and then obviously slowed down a hell of a lot. So for me personally, if the dollar's going to carry on as well bearish, then I will 110% looking for a setup with USD Japanese yen, for shorts, possibly being this 1-hour supply area, possibly. Again, I will be keeping my eye on USD Japanese yen on when the US dollar gets into around this 1-hour supply area. So again, if the dollar does go and carry on short because of this 4-hour supply, and we get a reaction from here, then that would possibly align with a reaction from here. Maybe, but again, it depends on where the dollar is at. So hopefully that makes sense for today, guys. I appreciate every single one of you as always. Thank you for tuning into my YouTube, into these daily market outlooks. Please make sure that you're dropping a like, you're subscribed to the channel, and also make sure you got your notifications turned on. Otherwise, it is so pointless, because if you guys are 3 hours, 4 hours, 5 hours late to this daily market analysis, the moves could have already happened, and there's no better way of learning how to read markets when it's live chart analysis. So yeah, see you tomorrow, guys. Take care. God bless.